Hello everyone, and welcome to the showdown between the Vampire Coast, who's going to be led by Salastra, and the Empire, who's going to be led by Pimp Daddy Gel. But really, nothing matters in comparison to the showdown between Queen BESS and Illuminarch of HYSH. So definitely very excited to show you guys this game. It's by far one of the most ridiculous back and forth games I've had in quite some time, so strap yourselves in and let's watch Queen BESS blow up some state troops. So the first Queen BESS shot is going to be flying over, but let's take a look at the army here. We do have two groups of Felbats, and obviously we're on the crossroads here. So I was like, you know what? I might be able to get away with Queen BESS because it has a good arc of fire, and Empire cannons typically don't. They have to get up on the high ground. I mean, mortars, obviously you could fight back, but really not against Queen BESS. So I was like, we might be able to get away with it here. So we're going to try it. We have Scurvy Dogs, two groups of Felbats up here on the high ground just to kind of scout and get some vision. Front line's going to be deckhand mobs. We do have Salastra, who is in some serious danger. Like, as soon as I saw his army, I was like, oh no, he has a Illuminarch, he has a Bright Wizard with fireballs, and then also Balthazar Gelt. And thankfully, it looks like he just has the Plague of Rust, so we don't have to worry about like Final Transmutation, which would like one-shot her basically, but yeah, it's going to be crazy. In the secondary line, two groups of Depth Guard just to fight state troops. They do a really good job. Everything except Greatswords. I mean, yeah, Greatswords, I don't know how that would go 1-to-1, but Greatswords are a pretty good counter against them, but for the most part, they do very well. We got some halberds all around the formation to deal with like Empire Knights, Reiksguard, just mobile units in general, Queen Bessie in the back, and a Vampire Fleet Captain with Invocation and Drown Dead. Yeah, Queen Bess is going to be doing some heavy lifting. The first shot is a bit of a miss, and for my opponent, he does have Balthazar Gelt, Bright Wizard. Balthazar just with the Plague of Rust, so he's probably looking to do that on like Depth Guard, for example, and allow his state troops to fight back. Front line's going to be all swordsmen, pretty standard stuff there. Two great swords in the back to deal with Depth Guard spam, which I like quite a bit. A very solid build so far from my opponent Rightist. In the back, he also has a couple handgunners. So handgunners. I think he has three groups in total, and two Empire Knights, which are a great pick. Empire Knights you can actually use defensively. So if somebody has hounds or anything else, they're really cheap. You just defend your handguns, or you can just cycle charge zombies. They give you a ton of value for their cost. I really like them quite a bit. And that's pretty much it, guys. So this is a really fun game. So hopefully you guys are ready to party, and let's do it. So the second Queen BESS shot coming in, and it's going to be scoring a direct hit right on those great swords. Just massive, brutal damage right there. So very happy about what Queen BESS has accomplished so far. And the Felbats are going to be attacking Balthazar Gelt, just kind of poking him in the eye and having a good old time. And the second Queen BESS shot is going to be coming downtown. And oh, it might get a 2-for-1 here. So it's going to be landing, and it does hit the great swords as well as those handguns. So man, Queen BESS paying her dues so far. As far as kills, she's up to 28 already. So definitely no joke. I do have her on manual fire, so she's not going to be shooting randomly. It's pretty much just whenever I target something. So very, very important stuff, since I don't have a gunnery wipe. Next shot coming in, just ravaging those great swords, so definitely getting a pretty good advantage. But now, things are going to start getting pretty real here. So the first shot of that Illuminarch of HYSH does miss, so I was very, very lucky there. Now the deck gunners are going to respond in kind. I forgot to mention I do have two of these. Deck gunner's pretty good, long armor piercing. They can actually shoot down the Illuminarch pretty effectively, and this hill is really helping, because typically the Illuminarch could actually range the deck gunners, but here he has to come over to get line of sight. So we're getting some good shots. Things are going pretty well. I'm trying to get the dogs up and around the front, just keeping the Felbats one in front, one in the back, just to keep line of sight, because if I lose line of sight, I'm going to not be able to shoot anymore. Here we go. Great Sword's taking quite a bit of damage. Both of them are, this one's at about 40%. This one's a little bit above half, but here comes another Queen BESS shot coming in with the Steel BESS, and man, doing huge damage. So right now, the bounce power, I would say a little bit in my favor, as I have done some serious damage, but things can turn in just a blink of an eye, right? If Salastra gets caught with like one bad spell or anything, it's going to be disastrous. Fireball coming downtown from the Bright Wizard is going to be shooting against Queen BESS, just starting to add up that HP damage, and yeah, it hit. That was some good stuff. I mean, a couple more fireballs plus some supporting, gunfire maybe from Illuminarch could probably take it out. But bounce power, again, a little bit in my favor, but I still think that it's, it's anyone's game here. The Great Swords are going to be advancing. It looks like all the state troops are going to be pushing up the hill. Did they start with a chevron? Looks like they have one chevron. So yeah, Queen BESS is coming in, going after all the guns. So I'm just trying to spread the love a little bit, right? And you can see she's already definitely probably paid for herself, so I'm not going to be like terribly distraught if she does get taken down. There are a couple things that are going to be a little bit tricky. His handgunners are going to be able to put some good pressure on my Depth Guard and some other troops like that. Salastra, I was a little bit ballsy with her. I was kind of keeping her up in the front. I was thinking I would summon some crabs to the damn Knight Errants and charge up the hill and maybe get him, but it's a very dangerous play here. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. So the deck gunners here are going to be going, and I mean, other than running her into the forest, there's not many places I can hide. But it looks like he's focusing on Queen BESS. So Queen BESS has been taken out by the Illuminarch of HYSH, so very well played there. And it's going to stabilize. So, I mean, if he can pull this thing back and engage the rest of his army and just kind of poke in and out over the course of the whole game and maybe get some value with the Illuminarch, he's going to be in pretty good shape. So Balthazar Gelt's going to be flying overhead, just kind of cackling as he does so. I was like, damn it, I should have brought like one handgunner just to kind of poke him out of the sky. I mean, the deck gunners can do a pretty good job, and you can see they're wearing him down a little bit. Balthazar Gelt at about 2,500 HP, but the Fireball's coming in. So Fireball just, oh my god, half HP on Salastra, just brutal stuff. She's going to reach her healing cap super quick. So I do drop the Invocation of Nehek right here on Salastra to try and top her off. And, she has such a small HP pool, it's able to do so. Balthazar Gelt's getting beat up pretty bad by those deck gunners, and the front line engagement's pretty much underway. Swordsmen are going to march in. Great Swords are following up in reserves. They're all very, very beat up. So Solastro is going to be summoning the Damned Knight Errants or the Angry Crabs. Yeah, the those damn Knights Errants are going to be going there. In the back, you can see we do have the Scurvy Dogs just kind of looking about. I was really trying to get on the Luminarch, but now it's a little bit scary, guys. Fireball going down, and the Luminarch of HYSH actually hit directly on Solastra. Pretty much gets one-shotted there. I didn't have any time to respond, really. But again, I mean, I guess if it was like a really like high-stakes environment, I might have like ran into the trees and just kind of hid and just summoned things and sent them out. That was probably, you know, the tournament play to do, right? But anyways, over here, the Death Gunners are going to be shooting up into the skies after Balthazar Gelt, who has popped the Staff of Valance as well as the Arcane Conduit. He's going to be getting some really, really good Winds of Magic Reserve. So beautiful stuff. In the back, though, we get a huge play. The dogs are able to get the Luminarch, which has a ton of ammo. We picked this thing off, so far so good, right? You can see one of these bats is doing the boogieing down right there, which is pretty funny. But yeah, Queen Bess is offline, guys. So I mean, I've lost that. It's about 1,600 gold. He lost the Luminarch, which I don't quite remember the cost. It's one of those units that I don't use terribly often. But another Fireball coming downtown and doing great work against my Vampires. I mean, the Vampire Fleet Captains, you know, any Vampiric unit typically is weak to fire, so it's going to be taking extra damage. It has light armor already, so Fireball's going to be like in its perfect situation, right? The Crab Summon right here is going to be beating down some of these greatswords. They're definitely not having a good time against the Krabby Patties, but the Crabs are going to start breaking down simply because they're a summoned unit. So at the very least, I did get 2 summons off with Solastra, but now the Vampire Fleet Captain is going to have to take leadership over this army. The bounce power is getting a little bit, back towards the middle, I would say. The Death Guard and the front line are just annihilating the Swordsmen. So wherever the Swordsmen are meeting the Death Guard, they're getting cut down. But I'm also being pulled into a little bit of a Last Samurai situation here. You can see the Invocation of Nehek has been popped, but Ritus getting some really good focus fire with his handgunners. We're very beat up, but this one group is actually quite healthy. And as soon as he's able to clear these Empire Knights, he's going to get massive volleys and just pound these Death Guard into dust here, which is going to be very cool. In the meantime, some of these Empire Knights are charging into the back line, getting a nice little charge into the back of my Death Gunners, but I was pretty close to my halberd, so I was able to scurry back and really, ultimately will minimize the damage pretty substantially. So I'm going to fall back here, but it looks like he's going to just be kind of weaving across my formation, which is a really good tactic. I do use a taunt as well to lower their speed and try and get in position a little bit quicker. But he's going to weave into these Death Gunners who have almost killed Balthazar Gelt in the back, so he is really beat up. But a very nice Empire Knight charge coming in here, hitting these Death Gunners, slapping them down a little bit, about 10-15% HP probably at the end of the day. And the Depth Guard up on the high ground doing very good. They're beating down Empire Knights. They've gotten into the cookie jar, but the problem is if I overchase the handgunners, it's going to take away a very valuable unit of mine away from this very important battle, and also pulls me into open field to be shot to pieces and cycle charge. So it's a bit of a tough situation. My other group of Depth Guard actually got fully killed by these handgunners over here in this second group of handgunners. Another Fireball coming downtown. It's going to be going after the Vampire Caster. Again, weak to fire. Invocation of Nehek is going to be going down. And here comes a beautiful Fireball from Ritus. Great shot right in the face. And yeah, the leadership situation is getting a little bit flimsy. So when I lost Solastra like that, man, I lost a lot of value. I mean, Balthazar Gelt's still flying around cackling. My opponent, in terms of leadership, is in a better situation. I just have this Vampire who's getting really, really beat up and not having a good time. The Queen Bess crew, very angry about the loss of their precious cannon, is going to be charging forward to intercept these greatswords. And yeah, I don't know, they might be able to put a bit of it in. I mean, I guess they have 12 melee attack and decent weapons range. Also, Ritus getting a really good shot. His handgunners are able to rotate up in the back and shoot these Depth Guard down, and they're doing a great job. I mean, his handgunner play has been very solid. As a result, I'm trying to push up some of my halberds and other units to just kind of get on these guys. But the fireballs are just a lot of damage, guys. It's just adding up. I don't really have anywhere to hide. I mean, I was hiding amongst my zombies, but I found that it was hitting the zombies and the caster. But I did summon a group of surprise zombie pirate gunnery mobs, and they're just going to be popping Balthazar Gelt in the face, who's taunted. His armor's low. He has 211 HP, and the guns are coming in. The deck gunner shooting from downtown, and Pimp Daddy Gelt is most likely going to fall here, and down goes the Gelt man. So both armies are essentially leaderless right now, but unfortunately his caster is pretty healthy and probably has a fair amount of Winds of Magic since he's just been using Fireball and he had the Staff of Valance and Arcane Conduit, so Gelt was basically like a mana battery. And right here, my Vampire is not happy at all about this situation. Fireball's coming downtown here, again, just kind of buttering me up, and the deck gunners are getting some good shots, so we're picking apart those Swordsmen and those Empire Knights. We still have a fair amount of stuff up on the high ground. We do have some dogs come back, so the dogs are going to be attacking the caster. I did actually finish off a group of handgunners. I was able to shatter that group on the far side. That was a really nice grab, but we're going to be getting into these handgunners. We actually break them, so really good situation to the back line. We're able to kind of salvage a little bit. We have these summon zombie pirate gunnery mobs, which are going to be helping, and some halberds and a couple deck gunners. But aside from that, this is somewhat common for the Empire in the late game in these very close battles. A lot of this stuff is going to be breaking off, right? But you'll find that a lot of them will rally, they'll come back, and they're going to form a bit of a second push here. And without my leaders, I mean, the zombies have pretty poor leadership as is, so if my army starts to get a little bit more worn down, I'm probably going to have issues with army losses. So right here, you can see the brave Empire handgunners are going to be shooting these zombies in the face. They are taking some heavy volleys from the zombie pirate gunnery mob on the flank. Of course, they're very inaccurate, but they do have that volume of fire, but they're going to start dissipating really quickly. And the Empire Knights coming in for a big chubby charge, beautiful charge down here on these zombie pirate gunnery mobs. And the Bright Wizard, unfortunately, like that leadership, I think is going to be what makes or breaks it. Like if he was dead and the Bright Wizard wasn't here, I think I would be in a position to maybe just grind this out with my zombies and halberds here. But considering the Bright Wizard is here, I don't think I'm going to have enough, guys. So you can see here the Empire is going to be collapsing inward. getting a really good surround using his handguns. Obviously, he doesn't have to attack. I mean, I just have these deck gunners. He can kind of poke me from a safe distance. Now the swordsman and other troops are going to get in there, and the full Empire collapse coming in, and that's going to be all she wrote. So really well played to my opponent, Rightist. It's funny, before the game, neither of us had, like, we were in a lobby, actually, and neither of us had any, terms of like, oh yeah, let's both meme this game. Let's do something funny, right? Like, we both just did it instinctively, which is great. And honestly, Queen BESS was really good that game. Like, if anything, like, BESS was a great pick on that map, and I would even say competitive. Like, she was really solid. Now, what lost me the game, clearly, was Salastra and the Vampire Fleet Captain just getting dumpstered so bad by the magic. That was really, really tough. And of course, my Depth Guard got a little bit overextended, like pushing up the hill. They got pulled into handgunner fire and cycle charging, so I think that was a big part of it as well. So he did a really good job just pulling me up the hill there. And yeah, his army was awesome. It was really cool. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I mean, the Luminarch of HYSH, very solid. In my typical anti-Empire build, I just kind of cut the Queen BESS and get a couple more deck gunners and go a little bit wider with more dogs, which I think would have been more competitive, having more pressure on the handgunners and stuff. But I mean, Queen BESS did a really good job too. So who's to say what would be better? But really, I think at the end of the day, he did a really good job just staying with those fireballs, staying consistent, just kind of grinding it out. And even though the Luminarch got a little bit beat up, he focused down Queen BESS, and from there he focused down my Lords and pretty much one-shotted them, which was incredible. So yeah, it kind of makes me rethink bringing Salastra in this matchup. But Fireball is just going to be so punishing. I mean, most people just bring like life magic. It's just so common in the metagame, so you don't really expect the fire magic. But the off-meta stuff definitely can catch you off guard sometimes. So as such, if I were to kind of change it, I would probably just cut both of these guys, get Noctilus on foot, and from there I would just go super wide, which I think would be super better. But yeah, very well played to my opponent, Rightist. He did a great job of that game. It's just awesome build, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this Vampire Coast vs Empire game. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.